town on a Thursday night before Memorial Day weekend.
We had a truck carrying an oversized load. This load was supposed to be in the left lane, but for some reason it ended up in the right lane. The pilot car didn't really tell the driver to stop, and the truck kept going, and the corner of his load struck several critical supports on the bridge, and the bridge just collapsed.
I was really taken away by the wreckage that I saw. I mean, I've driven that bridge many times over the years, and was just amazed to see it in that kind of condition, and it was just really kind of horrified. And then I saw the vehicles in the water, and I was just so thankful that nobody was hurt.
One of the things, you know, you go all over the country, especially back east, there's a lot of interstate system. On the west coast here, I-5 is the only north-south interstate that connects us between Canada and Mexico.
And I had calls from some Canadian companies wondering how to get their trucks across, so I got good information from DOT and relayed that to these companies.
So where the bridge collapsed and the detour routes were was right in the heart of our commercial part of Mount Vernon, some of our large retailers, a lot of shopping districts. And so what was happening was there was so much traffic there that our locals were staying away. Those businesses had impacts of up to $100,000 a day in sales. We developed a route, kind of a locals route that we put on our website. We sent it out to all of our listservs, you know, encouraging people to go out. We resorted to the Mount Vernon High School cheerleaders with some signs on these busy intersections that just said, please be patient, please don't block intersections.
We basically started to mobilize into the office, and our office kind of became one of the central locations where we were determining next steps. I looked up, and Jeff Horton from FHWA was standing in the doorway, and Jeff, the first thing he said was, "What can I do to help?" He was there working alongside us as an engineer, trying to find solutions and answers to different problems that we had as they came up, and also exploring different options at a very high level early on to try to find the right solution and the fastest way to get the thing fixed. You're not used to seeing that type of relationship between a state and a federal agency where everybody puts everything aside and says, what can we do to make it happen? So we really appreciated that.
Should they go for put in a temporary span to take care of the collapsed bridge, or should they wait and do a permanent span? Basically just go through the options. And at the same time, because we knew it was going to be an emergency relief project, look at it from an eligibility point of view, provide any kind of guidance to WashDOT on whether things, what they were planning would be eligible or not.
The resources that he had available to him through FHWA, he was able to, through his contacts, find out the information faster than we ever could have, and also find out if they were viable or not viable.
Restoring traffic was so critical. That was the big issue, and they really wanted to do that as quickly as possible, and the use of the temporary bridges allowed that.
Typically, temporary bridges, these Bailey Bridge type bridges, are smaller, you know, 2-lane roadways, shorter spans, that kind of thing. We're dealing with a 100-foot long span, 4 lanes of traffic. So there wasn't just any temporary bridge that could work. So we found a company that it worked. They pre-designed these spans. They're steel structures, and they come in parts and they put them together.
Once you're open it to traffic, that collective sigh that goes through the team, it's like, oh, we got the temporary bridge in place. That's a fantastic feeling to see those first couple of cars go over.
Oh my goodness, yes. The temporary bridge helped so much. We still had congestion coming through town, but that really alleviated so much of the gridlock that we were experiencing.
The first day after the bridge collapsed, we had biologists go out and do some rapid assessment of existing conditions out there, so we had a baseline. This is the Skagit River. It's the largest river that drains to the Puget Sound. It's home to all of the salmon species that are listed under the Endangered Species Act in Puget Sound. It's a designated wild and scenic, federally designated wild and scenic river. It's a navigable waterway. It's a prized sports fishing river, and there are 3 tribes with treaty rights to the fish in the river. So they're a very sensitive environmental resource. We went to all of our regulatory partners and the tribe saying, we've got a problem, We don't really understand the full magnitude of the problem yet, but we're looking for your help in coming up with solutions. So fisheries experts that work with the natural resources departments of the local tribes put forward those recommendations to minimize the impacts to fish, which we were able to accommodate in the contract. When we went back after the fact and looked at how this project was implemented and what kind of impact there was, we found that there was a very minor impact to the environment.
There was a lot of debate as to whether a steel girder type of bridge, a concrete girder, a truss bridge. There was a lot of different things discussed, and each one had benefits, each one's had drawbacks. Timing was very important, so that's why we elected to go with a design-build contract in order to be able to put it out there to industry and to the open market and have the different contractors try to put together the best proposal they could. The weekend that we put together the design-build contract, that's usually a process that takes many months, and we did that in essentially 3 days.
Yeah, there was some very long nights and some very worn-out people. And again, it was very, very impressive to watch WashDOT in action. As far as the request for proposal, Federal Highways, we had the responsibility of approving that before it went out on the street. So as they developed things, they were passing sections to me, and I was reviewing them.
Everybody had a lot of opinions on how to do it, and so trying to work through that and make sure that we weren't missing something was a bit of a challenge.
One of the things that I've learned in this process is, when an extraordinary circumstance happens, you can't do business as usual. You have to really start to push the envelope in your comfort zone. And what I mean by that is, as we were putting this together, we needed to look at alternative materials, things that could be procured faster. We also looked at the weights of putting a structure back in here. This is a steel bridge, and when you look at concrete, we couldn't exceed the loads on these foundations because we weren't going to rebuild the foundations, for example. So we looked at lightweight concrete, things that we wouldn't normally do for a permanent structure.
Big factor in the whole thing was the speed, being able to do it quickly, and the proposal that ultimately won out was one that was able to do it in a single night shift. They, in a single shift, jacked up the temporary bridges, cut them free, got them loose, jacked them up and moved them onto this side of the bridge on a temporary platform that they had built. And then the new bridge was downstream, and they raised it up and brought it in to the permanent location and set it back down in on its permanent bearings.
I think the probably number one thing would be the communication that was established between WashDOT and Federal Highways. That was second thing again was the ability to streamline many of the processes that can sometimes seem like they slow projects down. And probably the third one was WashDOT's decision to actually pursue a design-build method of delivering a project and utilizing the contractor's expertise and their creativeness was, I think, really key in delivering the project in such a timely manner.
It started out as a real big crisis, but we're able to all pull together, get something that's never been done before in place and operational.
Things were put together so fast that these businesses survived because of that.
And as far as with our DOT staff, we were so happy to be celebrating with them because it was a huge success. Really showed how government does things well, and we can do things well for the public.